Welcome to The Whole Metaverse, a New York University School of Professional Studies podcast exploring the ever-expanding metaverse and Web3 landscape. Each episode, we'll talk to the pioneers, influencers, and innovators leading the way. If you want to understand and better navigate this burgeoning space, you're in the right place.
Brian Trunzo, thank you very much for being on the Whole Metaverse podcast, the NYU podcast about the metaverse. Dr. Elizabeth Haas, NYU professor, and myself, Pierre Gervois, will be the host today. So, Brian, you're the Metaverse Lead at Polygon Studios, and there are multiple blockchains, and every blockchain is competing to be the best blockchain for different companies, different applications. Explain us why a company or an organization or an artist should choose Polygon. Why are you better than Ethereum or Tezos or Solana?
Well, I don't think it's so much being better than anyone. I think it starts philosophically why we exist. So I'll start there, and hopefully that explanation will make the case for itself. So philosophically, we believe in the layer 2 thesis, if you will. That's to say that the most decentralized technology that enables smart contracts, Ethereum, is the gift from heaven. And along with that gift comes some congestion and some throughput restrictions. That's to say, a layer 1 blockchain cannot be each of decentralized, secure, and fast. And they can only optimize for 2 of those 3 things. So with that, Ethereum has optimized for decentralization and security, not for speed. So with that, layer 2 solutions like Polygon come into existence to speed up transaction throughput through a myriad of technologies, of which Polygon has developed a suite of technologies to help prove this layer 2 thesis. Many people that we compete with that are a part of the Ethereum virtual machine do one thing. They do one layer 2 solution, whether it's an optimistic rollup, a ZK rollup, a side chain, which some folks would not consider that a layer 2, that you start to get into sort of like nerdy technical issues there. Also enterprise solutions, which is to say private blockchains or permission blockchains built upon our technology. But we're the only folks out there that have a suite of these technologies that we provide in a modular way for folks to build upon. So I think that is one of the reasons why large IP holders, consumer brands, entertainment properties, games, folks that will help us bring about mainstream adoption of blockchain choose Polygon.
You said level 1 can't do all 3. Why is it they can't do all 3?
So I am a non-technical person, so I'm not going to get too far into the deep end of the pool on this. But there is something called Zuku's triangle, and the cryptographic community has talked about this ad infinitum. The only way to increase transaction throughput at layer 1 is to cut corners on decentralization or security. That is a proven thesis. That is something I am not qualified to speak on beyond above the tree line in that way. But there's plenty of literature in the space that proves that point.
Polygon was created in India, and correct me if I'm wrong, by Indian developers. Explain us how the fact that it was created in such this large country has an impact on the way Polygon operates. It's very interesting to see a blockchain that was not created in Europe or in the United States, but in India, which is a huge country, very important economically, culturally. So I think it's a great thing to see this big country that who created this blockchain. So tell us, what are the consequences of this?
I think the consequences are just proving that we live in a global society, and that, when it comes to blockchain technology, there's no region that should be considered a favorite to bring about mass adoption. Obviously, there are governmental and policy and regulatory regimes throughout the world that would make it more difficult for a particular region to launch a successful blockchain protocol at the layer 1 or layer 2 level, or even at the application level. But I think this has become a global game. And I think that Polygon, having been founded in India, is proof of that, or one proof point in that. That being said, Polygon's journey began in 2017. And it wasn't until 2021, well, early 2021, when Polygon rebranded to Polygon, it was formerly called Matic, where things started to take shape and the blockchain started to resemble what it looks like today. So one of the reasons why philosophically Polygon has been a place that I've enjoyed working at, and I was a super user of the protocol before I began working there a year ago, is that Polygon has always shown an ability to pivot into new technologies that are being created open source globally, working with the large Ethereum community to develop scaling solutions together. And around 2021, when Polygon rebranded into Polygon from Matic, and this had been taking place throughout 2020, Polygon had moved from, at that time, what was called Plasma, which was supposed to be the scaling solution that a lot of people were betting on from 2018 through 2020. People were betting on this Plasma solution, pivoting into sidechains, pivoting into ZK rollups, and really showing an ability to address new technologies and sort of adopt them and show an ability to pivot for mainstream adoption. So I sort of rambled a little bit from your original question about why India, or how global pressures, or how did this happen really? But hopefully that painted a picture that's worth jumping into the next question.
It sounds like that the Ethereum Research Foundation was really critical to Polygon's understanding of this. And are they still kind of providing key information to Polygon?
Seeing that it's a global, open, permissionless community. A lot of it starts with the Ethereum Foundation, but also a lot of it starts outside the foundation, and the foundation and the core developers, will take cues from outside of their own four walls and implement technologies or research discrete topics that arise elsewhere. So I think it's a global effort. A lot of it happens in forums. A lot of it happens in GitHub repos, Discords. People are talking everywhere these days. So I don't think it's one directional.
We have seen the first application for blockchain in the art industry, in the gaming industry, for consumer goods industry. And I think that the blockchain can be used also to promote democracy and can be used to improve public services, to improve the relation between citizens and an administration in a democratic country. I see that Polygon has been adopted by a police department in an Indian city to improve the relation between citizens and their police force. And how do you see Polygon being used by government or for public services in the future?
Yeah, I think the beauty of Polygon and open, permissionless, decentralized blockchains is just that it's open and permissionless and general purpose. So I think we're only scratching the surface in terms of what blockchains can do. So when it comes to governments specifically, I think the wide Polygon ecosystem of developers who are developing decentralized applications, they'll be the ones to break new ground and work with governments on what proofs of concepts that they should stand up and then what they should explore thereafter. One thing that comes to mind that's pretty easy to understand is voting. The fact that voting is still a manual process where identity and physical location are so important. And there are hot issues that go into identity and physical location. How much identity is needed? How much do we need a physical location to conduct this sort of behavior? The fact that on-chain voting exists, that we can do it, and that it's pretty instantaneously. It's not instant. You need to wait for blocks to be produced on chain, but we can solve this now. We can do this today. Also thinking about the way payments are made at the municipal level. Polygon is working with the city of Lugano on the city of Lugano's Plan B, which is meant to socialize and integrate blockchain technology into the city, where one can pay his or her taxes in a stablecoin, where merchants are given incentives to accept cryptocurrencies, and where cryptocurrencies are integrated throughout municipal governance. So I feel like it's somewhat of a cop-out answer to say our imaginations are the only thing that's preventing us from going further. But in many ways, I think that that's actually true.
Can you talk about a couple of the cutting edge things you're seeing? What are the innovative players doing?
Yeah, two areas that are very interesting to me, and we've had a lot of traction at Polygon, and because of some big commercial deals that we've been able to produce, we've had a lot of traction and wind at our sails in winning these verticals is loyalty, rewards, and phigitals. That's to say, digital products that are linked to physical products. So starting with the latter, with phigitals, understanding how one can be incentivized to do things IRL to receive digital benefits. So that's dynamic NFTs that change in appearance or in metadata based off of actions that are taken in the real world. So folks like S Labs, 90cc, IYK, these are folks who are building critical infrastructure and decentralized applications that do just this sort of thing. So imagine a world where a musician who is selling merch, who is having a concert, can incentivize you to go to the concert, wear the garment, have it scanned through an NFC chip, and have the corresponding NFT level up over time. Those sorts of technologies are really interesting because I feel like there's a narrative in metaverse that we're all going to be, 450 pounds with all sorts of health defects and, not taking care of our physical vessels because we're stuck in this digital misreality, I guess. And I feel like there's a way to connect our physical and digital selves through these sorts of technologies and products. So the phygital space is super interesting for me. Related there too is the loyalty and reward space. Our partnership with Starbucks has really blazed the path here, and a lot of folks are learning and iterating against this, and it's going to become a really exciting space. And that's to say, to turn passive consumption into like really gamified immersion on the brand level. As someone who has worked in marketing and on the brand side of creative over the years, that's really interesting to me, particularly as we move into this privacy-focused first-party data world where cookies may be deprecated at some point, and the old Web 2 tricks in terms of selling and acquiring data to target consumers, that playbook is going to be maybe not dumped on its head, but definitely new chapters will be added there too. So there was a narrative before the NFT boom that folks would be more guarded of their personal data and that they would sell their data. And that is true. But when you double click on it, one's data is worth a few pennies a month, right? So the idea that you and I will sell our data for a few pennies a month, that narrative doesn't really hold. However, when you're selling your data, you're selling your attention to folks who are rewarding you with NFTs, which are meant to be loyalty and reward incentives for particular brands or whoever is actually issuing these NFTs. You start to enter an interesting space, right? So you're selling your attention for NFTs. NFTs become a new marketer's trick. It sort of like adds to the Web 2 playbook of retargeting. And to me, this NFT commerce that will arise therefrom is really, really interesting for brands.
From what you said, I mean, part of the attention merchants or whatever you want to call them in the Web 2 world is if I bought a Starbucks, I get 6 ads from Dunkin' Donuts. And what I'm seeing in the Web 3 world is if I buy a Starbucks, I'm more tied to Starbucks as opposed to the competitor having access to me. And I think there's a subtle difference there because I'm picking the merchant and it's tying me tighter, but I may be off. I just want to kind of check that.
That's a good example to highlight what I was saying. And I think to take it a step further to see how like an API-less affiliate marketing partnership world emerges, I'll give another example. If a particular business can read my on-chain history, and I give up my on-chain history, right? I allow them to see my on-chain history. So I'll give an example for myself, right? As a native New Yorker who went to NYU 20 some odd years ago, who has owned small businesses in New York and has lived here his entire life, I would love to like have a New York history on chain where businesses can target me, businesses that I want to be more loyal to. It could be a restaurant, it could be a retailer, where I give up that data and I can get a better brand experience digitally and physically. I think of how difficult it is to get a reservation at the Polo Bar or Carbone. I don't want to go online 6 weeks in advance at 9 a.m. to try to get a reservation. If there was a way for me to be a part of a super club because of my New York on-chain history, right? That will turn me into even more of a fan and support those brands even more. I will become, in a way, a billboard for those brands because to be honest, I wouldn't shut up about it. I would be talking about how great the Polo Bar is. And that's just like 0.5% of where this can go, right? This is just scratching the surface on the affiliate marketing programs and the retargeting and sort of like NFT rewards, what that could look like. But I feel like that adds a layer to the discussion worth exploring.
I have not seen a lot of fine art projects on Polygon. I might be wrong, but most of the art project I hear are either on Ethereum or on Tezos. What is the reason? Or maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I mean, I would say 95+%, and I wouldn't just say this is empirical. You can check the data. 95+% of the liquidity in fine art is on Ethereum. And I think that's because the most legitimate scarce resource, the most like important scarce resource is legitimacy, right? And Ethereum has proven itself to be the settlement layer for value. And that is where the art market emerged from, this NFT art market emerged from. The art world makes outsized noise for its size based on the zeitgeist and also based on being early adopters. So, during the depths of COVID, particularly in the beginning, when folks were inside, clubhouses and Twitter spaces talking about NFTs, a lot of it was around collectibles and fine art, and it was all on Ethereum, and for good reason. So there's some sort of historical relevance here that gives Ethereum legitimacy when it comes to collectibles, when it comes to fine art. But that is just a very, 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 very small use case for NFTs. It's almost zeroing in as NFTs as an asset class, as a hyper financialized product, as opposed to a usable product, as opposed to a composable product. So as Ethereum becomes more of a settlement layer for the world's value and layer twos emerge as execution environments, I think that those who are buying Ethereum block space will be other blockchains, will be layer twos, rollups, enterprise solutions. And that's not to say that art projects will move. That's not to say that collectibles will move to other blockchains. Maybe they too will buy block space from Ethereum. But block space being a finite resource, I'm of the mindset that most of these projects will move to layer twos over time. So I think a reason for the liquidity and the amount of attention that art has drawn on Ethereum has to do with legitimacy, which also is a byproduct of time and place.
And do you think that all blockchains are universal blockchain, like can solve solutions for any type of industry? Or do you think that we will see in the future certain industries, certain type of application being more on Solana or Polygon or Tezos or Ethereum? What's your opinion? Do you see blockchain getting specialized at some point?
I don't think blockchains should be specialized. I think that defeats the purpose of a blockchain. And I feel like when you see a blockchain, whether it's run by a foundation or a nonprofit or a for-profit enterprise that is trying to position a blockchain as the blockchain for X thing, I feel like that's a sign of weakness in the blockchain, looking to find a use case, a single use case, because maybe they have a few people working on the BD teams that have expertise in those things. Blockchains that are Turing complete, general computation environments to execute transactions, there should be no limitation to what they do. And if you are to have, whether it's a layer 2 or a monolithic layer 1, if you were to have a general purpose blockchain, you would want composability across all sorts of decentralized applications. One can make the argument that why would you want to have a blockchain for art if there are no sort of like money Legos on the DeFi side to provide for liquidity? Why would you want to have a metaverse blockchain if you can't composably have artworks live inside those blockchains? Why would you want to have a loyalty rewards blockchain that cannot interact with the metaverse or physical products? And it's not so much cannot, it's more the marketing message behind those blockchains. So I went off on a tangent there. I think the main point I'm trying to make is that blockchains are Turing complete general computation execution environments, and to position one's blockchain as a blockchain for X thing, that kind of kneecaps the blockchain itself. And I feel like that's indicative of a blockchain looking for a vertical to win because it's not having success elsewhere. So it's almost like a forced business decision for something that's meant to be decentralized and permissionless.
With everything happening in the crypto world today, I'd love your kind of thoughts on, this industry that became $2 billion in 10 years and where you think it's headed now?
I feel like bad actors, if I'm reading you correctly, you're talking about the events of the last 6 months from 3 Hours Capital to Terra Luna to FTX. I feel as though it's really a shame that the tools that emerge to prevent this from happening, that's say decentralized finance, where there's a public ledger, where one cannot steal customer deposits, where one cannot actually commit fraud without everyone seeing it. The fact that those tools were not used and that the crypto industry took a hit on the chin, like a champ, to be honest, but took a massive hit on the chin, and some people have lost their entire life savings, and it's a very sad moment for the crypto industry. The fact that this happened because there were bad actors working in centralized environments is really sort of a shame, because the mainstream media, I feel as though, are either incapable of or unwilling to understand that and report it accurately. The events of the last 6 months have been painted as though this is crypto's fault. It's a few bad people's faults. And sometimes you got to trim the trees to let them grow. And I, for one, am happy to see bad actors removed from the system. I'm here for a long time. I've been here for 6 years already, and I plan on going nowhere. So at Polygon, we say the bear market is for builders. So the folks that we see innovating right now, we will see the fruits of their labor next year and the year after and the years to come. In every bear market that we've had, whether it was because there was fraudulent behavior or some sort of spectacular blow up like Mt. Gox, for instance, a few years back, or the ICO bubble that popped in 2018, we've always seen something emerge therefrom. After Mt. Gox, smart contracts came about, Ethereum came about. After the 2018 ICO bubble popped, we got DeFi and NFTs. So, the question is, where do we go from here? What sort of innovation is going to emerge from here? Because the folks who are building right now, the developers who are working on decentralized applications and applications of blockchains right now, those are the ones who are going to create tomorrow.
And do you have a sense of what the lessons are that they can build on? I mean, is there something, like the consumer whatever certification that can say yes, it's decentralized, or it's visible, it's accountable? Is there some kind of lesson like that should be happening, or that investors need to be active board members, any of that stuff?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that my answer is there's a level of caveat emptor here. Not your keys, not your coins. That message is very true. Folks who left their crypto assets on FTX as an exchange, they were fraudulent, they were defrauded, right? Like, that is very clear. So not to blame them, but this is a lesson in crypto hygiene. This is a lesson in decentralization. So I, for one, I don't want to sound too crypto anarchic and say it's all on us and self-agency is the only way out of this, because there are things that protocols and dApps should be doing to help the users adopt the technology, because without a frictionless environment, we'll never get across the chasm, right? But it really does start with taking agency over yourself. Self-custody is hard. Being your own bank is a hard thing. And there's a reason why centralized third parties have emerged with regulation around them. It's a profitable business to be in as a centralized party, and folks are willing to pay the coordination fees to not be their own banks. So all that being said, I think it starts with the user. It starts with yourself. But I do believe that those who are building on Web3 rails, particularly consumer brands, entertainment, those who are using NFTs as a technology layer, they need to abstract away some of the frictions and pain points while installing and instilling trust and confidence into the system. So I think one of the ways we get there too is stop obsessing over terminology, stop obsessing over Web3, blockchain, NFTs. The moment we stopped obsessing over the information superhighway and going online, like, it was when we achieved minimal viable online, right? I think we all remember going online and announcing to the people in your home that you're going online so that they don't pick up the phone. And we don't do that anymore, right? I wouldn't make this announcement right now that Elizabeth and Pierre, we're all online right now, right? It's baked in. We don't have to talk about it. And I think a part of adoption will be when there's an education on the consumer level, but also brands and IP holders are providing a frictionless experience whereby NFTs, fungible tokens, blockchain is baked into the process. Most of it is trustless, but where trust needs to exist, it can exist reasonably. and we stop obsessing over it. So I think it's a mix of all of those things.
As Ethereum became sustainable and switched its method of proof, being on top of it, what did you observe as the number two chain, and how did it impact you? Was there a pause, or was there too much other noise to really decipher it?
Yeah, the merge went off without a hitch. There was no change to our protocol. The only change that we experienced is that the most amount of energy consumption that Polygon used when Ethereum was on proof of work was our bridge. Anytime someone used our bridge to move currency, fungible tokens from Ethereum to Polygon and vice versa, there's a hash on the Ethereum blockchain and on proof of work that used energy, electricity. And also the fact that we checkpoint our ledger to the Ethereum ledger every 45 minutes or so, those transactions became way more energy efficient. So the only thing that we saw was that our bridge and our checkpointing, which uses the bridge as well, that those transactions became less energy intensive. So we're always going to be an order of magnitude less energy intensive than Ethereum. So the merge kind of went off without a hitch, and we didn't really see all that much. We weren't all that much affected.
And you didn't see a bunch of new customers come in all of a sudden too, because now it was a more acceptable currency.
The energy efficiency and ESG message of proof of stake blockchains, we benefited from that narrative, and not saying narrative as in that's fake or it's not real. I'm just saying that's a headline, right? We benefited from that narrative and from that macro trend, let's say, up until the Ethereum merge, at which point Ethereum became carbon neutral, and that sort of narrative, that competitive advantage over Ethereum, if one is to measure Polygon against Ethereum, which I think is wrong, because we're here to scale Ethereum, so we work together. So that narrative and that macro trend kind of went away. All large corporates, whether they're consumer brands, entertainment properties, games, their board wants to double click on ESG. They want to know our policies. They want to know our views. They want to know our statistics. So we still have these conversations when we're doing BD with large corporates, but we have kind of like a playbook for that, and we turn over documents to folks so they could get comfortable with the technology and with the energy efficiency of it.
Brian, you and I have been talking back and forth for a couple months now on what we can do together and how to make this partnership really work. I'd love to hear kind of your sense. I know you have a loyalty to NYU. We'd love to figure out how to make it a
Yeah.
stronger partnership.
So I'll start with the story that I told you a few months ago. I graduated NYU in 2006, and at our commencement, we were given as our parting present from the university, we were given access to our NYU account, which is now on Gmail, of course, in perpetuity. Up until that point, email was still a funny thing, and Gmail wasn't what it is today. And the significance of it in that moment, it didn't hit me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I could use an NYU. Why would I want that? But over time, like that has become a seminal moment in my life that I look back on as like a really important technological point in my life and my fellow alumni's lives. So with that, we were talking about domains, and we were talking about decentralized identity, and how cool would it be if NYU was able to create a decentralized identity for the students, and then maybe that's a way to start the education process of owning something, right? You own your decentralized identity in a way that you don't own your email. If Google wanted to take your email away from you tomorrow, they can. And there's very little redress that you would have on that, but no one can take away a decentralized identity from you. So that was one of the first things we discussed. And from there, we started discussing, study abroad campuses in the metaverse, and if there are sorts of grant programs or alumni associations, or all that could be structured as a DAO. There's many opportunities for us to explore. It's just a matter of setting in motion one or two, getting a couple wins, and then showing the rest of the university, and keep on going from there.
So if we want to do this decentralized identity at this year's graduation, let's just say in the month of January, you and I create a half-hour course on what is decentralized identity, and we get it recorded, and then we start sending it out. What do you say about that?
Oh man, you're putting the screws to me on the podcast. I for one would love that. And we have partners that you have had conversations with. I don't know if it's appropriate to name folks, NDAs and stuff like that. But we have some amazing partners that we can do that with. So I, for one, love the idea because it was a very important moment in my life to receive my NYU Gmail at graduation. By the way, bmt217@nyu.edu. Had that for almost 20 years now. So I would love to. Yeah.
Let's make a commitment. We're going to do it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. I mean, we learned really a lot. I really love your perspective. That was really very, very interesting. So thank you so much for being on the whole Metaverse NYU podcast. And I wish you good luck with the Polygon and or your Metaverse related projects. Thank you so much.
Pierre, thank you so much. And thank you for putting up with me. For people listening, I was a bit of an administrative nightmare to get on the calendar. I just had things popping up left and right. So thank you for sticking with me. And thank you for being able to cram this in at year end and to be the last podcast of the year for you.
Thank you for listening to The Whole Metaverse, a podcast from the New York University School of Professional Studies Metaverse Collaborative. The Whole Metaverse is produced by Make More Media. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe for more content. For more information about the NYU Metaverse Collaborative, please head to www.sps.nyu.edu.